Oh, good morning. It's the following morning. I think it's about February 17, midnight tally man. And yesterday, yesterday, was, I watched the video back and I remembered some things. I was just trying to think. I was focusing on what I was listening to in my teenage years. In fact, I enjoyed some Judy Garland and what else? Buddy Holly. I listened to a bit of Buddy Holly, and then later they were saying the Wanderers, not the Warriors, but the Wanderers soundtrack. The last time I attempted to watch the movie The Wanderers, I didn't enjoy it, but the soundtrack, I discovered the soundtrack when I was about 17. It was a fun soundtrack, and it was. I remember that. Why don't you take me to your funky town? Why don't you take me to your funky town? And also, Aha. Actually, Aha Take on Me. We bought Whispering Jack on vinyl, and I bought Dire Straits Money for Nothing on vinyl. I did get burnt out on heavy metal. I got completely burnt out on it. I felt that it wasn't doing good things for my mind, and it was interesting because at the same time in high school you had the kids. Some of the kids at high school, some of them were on a higher form than me, but some of them in my form just simply weren't wearing their uniform school anymore. They were just tight black jeans, and they were full metal, but they were full metal, staunch, full metal. And as I said, I've never been that way. I always felt that was a bit too restricting. I could never be that way. Because I think I mentioned top 40 hits to one day. Oh, I mentioned top 40 hits one day. What are you listening to that? Only metal, and so I didn't connect with them fully, not completely fully. I think one of the other metalheads who I did get along with. Because I truly didn't get along with all the metalheads, and didn't get along with them. There was only a few that would talk to me, and they said, don't mention, you shouldn't mention it. Don't mention anybody. This is the top 40. I don't listen to the top 40. The last time I actually tuned into the top 40 was somewhere around the mid-90s. I've got all the charts. I've got to find the charts somewhere because I've got all the charts. I went to Brash's every Wednesday after sport, or Tevin Boy every Wednesday with Bankstown Mall. I go and walk into Brash and pick up the charts. I've got them. I've still got them somewhere. And and also around about around about 1989, 1990, I discovered death metal, Morbid Angel, Fear Factory, Authors of Madness. I don't listen to the Authors of Madness album anymore. I never go to it. I think I just a bit of association with it. I don't go to it. But I did revisit Blessed Are the Sick a month ago. And first I thought, okay, this is interesting. And the second listen to Blessed Are the Sick, I was like, oh yeah. On the third, Blessed Are the Sick is actually, when I'm in the mood for it, it's a very good album. Covenant kicks ass. Covenant. Domination I can't handle much of. Where the Slime Live, Title Track. I Used to Hear, That's It. That was a weird album. Yeah, no. Of course, Formulas Fail to the Flesh. Oh, I love the Steve Tucker era. Very disappointed with Kingdom's Disdain though, but I'm totally off out. I've just skipped 20 years. I didn't like Kingdom's Disdain, and I'd been looking forward to it for so long because what is the best Morbid Angel album? Oh, Formulas. Okay, Formulas. Covenant is so good. Covenant. Oh my God, I love Dave Vincent. Actually met Dave Vincent. He came to Sydney in 2012 and he visited a metal goth nightclub afterwards. and I approached him while he was in mid-conversation with someone that I knew, a couple of people. It was in mid-conversation with two people I knew, and I kind of interjected the conversation. I was really drunk. I was wearing a Motley Crue t-shirt, which he probably found amusing. A Shout the Devil Motley Crue t-shirt, but not the traditional one, the other one, with the other one, with Vince's in the middle. He probably found that amusing. He was very nice to me. He was very cordial. Dave Vincent's about this tall and a very assertive guy. He was very nice to me. Didn't have a great deal of conversation. I was really drunk, but he was polite to me. He didn't have to be, because I was actually really drunk. I was just really drunk. He was actually very, very nice to me and respectful. And and spoke to him for all about 90 seconds, and then I just wandered off. Well, it was Steve Tucker era. The Steve Tucker era, I hope formulas fatal to the flesh. Oh, because Dave Vincent left, right? Dave Vincent left, and I wasn't keeping track of them. I was just listening to Gina and whatever else I was listening to at the time was the Chili Peppers. I was listening to the Chili Peppers at the time, actually, and other music. Other music. Oh, I remember Joe Shahani Surfing with the Alien, 1988. I remember that came out. Right, 4 minutes later, time went by. Frankie said to me, "New Morbid Angel album." I'm like, "Is there a new one?" I said, he said, "Dave Vincent left though, there's a new guy." I'm like, "Oh," he said, and he lent it to me. And he said, "Here, look, take it and listen to it. Tell me what you think." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah." He said, "Look, take it home and listen." So I took it home. He said, "It's different and you might not like it." And because I just hadn't kept track. I liked Morbid Angel, but wasn't even aware of Dave Vincent had left, because I was just listening to other music. I just wasn't paying attention to what Morbid Angel was doing. But I thought Formulas Fatal to the Flesh home. I put it in a CD player. Instantly liked the album. Instantly loved the album. Thought it was the best thing they'd ever done. And I just thought it was the best thing they'd ever done. And I would listen to the album repeatedly. I said, "I'm sorry I haven't given you a CD back." He's like, "Ah, it's cool, man, it's cool." He said, "I'm listening to other stuff anyway." I was just listening to other stuff anyway. So there was a mixture of music that I was listening to as a teenager and into my early 20s, a mixture of it, and I wasn't a typical metalhead at all. I was into a variety of music, which is why I didn't really hang out with metalheads. I never really I had my friends who I hung out with, a few of my friends who I hung out with, were also the same way. They loved metal but listened to everything else, like classical and pop music and which is, when you're a metalhead, you don't listen to classical music, you don't listen to pop music, no. And so I've found it difficult in the past to have conversations with metalheads because it's only metal. Look, as long as you're talking about metal, everything is fine. You start mentioning Madonna or Michael Jackson, so I remember one point I bought INXS Greatest Hits. That was sometime in the 90s, late 90s when they brought that up. But when it was growing up, it wasn't. And it took took a long time for some of the metal to grow on me. Like power metal, I can appreciate power metal. Not an overly huge fan of it. Oh, My Dying Bride. Yes, Turn Loose the Swans. And it's not power metal. And some of it I found to be very weird and too different for me. And yet at the same time, I was like, I don't like this. Someone in Australia said, I don't like it, but I find something interesting about it. I find some of the aspects appealing, and I'm very curious about it. So I would keep going back to listen to certain music, like My Dying Bride. I liked them straight away. I instantly liked them straight. Paradise Lost. Oh, and Cathedral, I found to be. And I occasionally, once every couple of years, listened to them. Now, back in the day with the Ethel Mirror, and I actually ended up buying a few of their albums. There was the Caravan Beyond Redemption, and there was yes, the Wasp. I don't think I actually ever bought a Wasp album, but I just used to hear them a lot. How does that make sense? Yeah. Wasp. Yes, Wasp, very good. Now, Anthrax. State of Euphoria is the true Anthrax album. Among the Living. No, never. I could never, ever get into Among the Living. I do not like that album. I think it's their weakest album. Oh, look. And I tried it a few times. A couple of years ago now, I was trying that album a few times. Among the Living, I was trying it a few times. I like half the album. Half the album is good. State of Euphoria. And even though they weren't happy with State of Euphoria, Anthrax weren't happy with State of Euphoria. State of Euphoria is their best album. Their best album. Persistence of Time, no, can't handle that. No. State of Euphoria is the Anthrax album. It's the Anthrax album. Nothing was set in concrete for me. I could listen to a bit of this, I'd listen to a bit of that, I'd like the aspects of this, I'd appreciate the aspects of that. And I remember at one point I was putting in death metal or napalm, putting in death metal, putting napalm death metal, and a minute later I'd stop the set, take it out, and I'd put pop in. I'd listen to some pop, or listen to some rock. And so I'd be doing that. And like Seasons in the Abyss. Can't handle Seasons in the Abyss anymore. I was listening to it the other way. I was like, no, I'm not into it. It is a good album. It's got some great track sides. Skeletons of Society, Born of Fire. You've got. I much prefer Rain Blood and South of Heaven. I actually like Divine Intervention. Divine Intervention is good. So far so good. So what? I didn't ever get into that album when it came out, and then a couple of years ago I went back to revisit So Far So Good, So What? I thought it was really interesting. Rust in Peace, the most overrated album of all time in heavy metal. I don't like that album, can't handle it. Yeah, when it came out, I used to enjoy that album. When it came out, I enjoyed it, thought it was very good. And I didn't listen to it for years and years and years. And then through different YouTube videos that I had watched, rating things, rating bands' albums, and that, and then people saying, oh, it's the best, it's the best, it's the best, it's the best, it's the best. The hype around that album is incredible, and it is. I do not like that album. Can't get into it. I think it's a flatliner of an album. Looking back in retrospect, flatliner. Risk is better. Endgame is good. Endgame is a great album. Risk is a very interesting album. Rust in Peace. Sodom, Agent Orange, very good album. I listen to it occasionally. Bolt Thrower Mercenary, really good album. And what else? And of course, I thought that Dangerous, Michael Jackson Dangerous was good. That's a great album. I mainly function album-wise, like albums. I love individual songs. I'm more used to buying albums. I haven't bought a single in 20 years or more. That was in the 90s. I focused entirely on albums. I remember a period of time I went through with Red Hot Chili Peppers, this By the Way album, and it was, but I still remember it. whichever year it came out, I spent 2 months drinking white wine continuously while listening to the By the Way album. I can never listen to the By the Way album ever again, ever again. But the Beatles. Let It Bleed, Let It Bleed. No, Pat, Let It Be. The Let It Be album, Beatles Let It Be album. I remember I was drinking white wine. I was drinking white wine. By the way, I can never drink white wine ever again, but 2011 I moved to Fraser Street in Marrickville to a boarding house, and I was listening to the Let It Be album, and I was drinking white wine consistently. I was drinking white wine consistently, and remarkably so. I'd still listen to the Let It Be album now, although I haven't listened to the Let It Be album in a long time. And I was listening to a lot of Edith Piaf and Johnny Cash. I was listening to a lot of Johnny Cash. And I was listening to a lot of Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash, I really like Johnny Cash, but I haven't listened to Johnny Cash because I haven't taken an association with music. I'll listen to it, but then I'll listen to it for a while, then I'll just be like, I won't listen to it then. And then time will go by and association develops. Part of my OCD. So certain albums I can't go back to listen to, certain albums I can't go back to listen to. Certain albums that haunt, an album will then haunt me, and then I won't listen to it. I won't be able to go back there because it will remind me of the time I listened to it. And we're trying to work that out actually. I've actually been trying to work that out. I'm not trying to work that out. I know what it is. I think it's to do with the fact that it's special in that time, and I will listen to it again. That will be taken away from me. That will get taken away. Maybe that's why it took me 10 years to unwrap the Jimmy Page Jimmy Page book. But I have a very complicated relationship with music, extremely complicated. There's certain albums that if I listen to them a particular period of time, so I can't go back to listen. I won't go back to listen to them again. Not necessarily because I don't like it, it's just because I can't do it. Faith No More in the 90s. Remember Faith No More, the real thing in the 90s? Faith No More, the real thing. What was there? Really interesting facets of music there was. I could never, ever be a radio DJ. I used to be a studio producer for 2NBC, Jonathan Hall, 2NBC in 1996. But I could never, ever be a radio DJ because you have to be able to play any music at any time, and I can't. There's certain bands I won't play, there's certain bands I won't go near. And music's a matter of personal perspective. Music is subjective, totally subjective, and it's a matter of perspective and where you're at in life and what you're listening to. Let's say what level you're at, or where you're at with music and how it makes you feel and what it does for you. It's a personal journey, and it's all subjective. Music is also very complicated. I could listen to a certain artist for a while and may not necessarily be able to go back and listen to them. We can appreciate them anyway. Yes, I might speak more on this later. Have a breather. Speak more on this later, okay?